for your attendance for the cabinet meeting. Are you going to set it all in? Martin? Thank you. Right, we're off. Item 1 on the agenda, aware apologies for absence.
None received, Chair, although there are several officers who are not present, including Sarah Sternberg and Kath Drury, Data Protection Officer.
Yes, there we know then. Thank you. Any declarations of interest on the agenda? No, I think so. The minutes of the last meeting, are they in front of you? Are everybody happy with those?
Move it, Chair. Yeah, second it.
Yeah, thank you. Update to the climate change strategy. That's Steve.
Me, thank you, Chair. Yes, Chair, this to update this climate change strategy. There's not been massive changes to it, but significant things to note is that we've updated the title of it, which is Rethink, Reduce, Reuse and Recycle. The updates that's been made now bring it more into line with the aspirations of the council plan. So before I move on to the recommendations, Chair, I mean, it is a nice policy one. So when it's approved, will be on the website. That's the strategy. Behind that is a tremendous piece of work that's been done to produce an action plan, which will be glossy, but that's still a work in progress. Chris might want to say a bit about that in a minute. So before we come to the recommendations, do you want to say anything about that, Chris?
I'll actually pass on to Sylvia, because Sylvia's done all the hard work on it. I can't take any credit. So.
Good afternoon. Thank you. So yes, we do have the operational climate change action plan, where majority of the actions relate to WASTO, so the council priorities, and they are basically put under the priorities relating to the climate change strategy. However, that document is a very big and very detailed spreadsheet. So in order to make it more user-friendly when publishing and showing what exactly we're going to do and how we're going to accomplish our priorities as laid in the strategy, we are now creating the front-facing action plan. So it is in a draft version, and I do believe that it is going to be ready in a couple of months' time to then be published, and just complement the strategy.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions before we go to the recommendations?
You do that first, and then I'll second it and just have a comment.
Okay. So the recommendations on there is that the strategy reflects, as I mentioned earlier, the current council plan vision, and the strategy title, Rethink, Reduce, Reuse and Recycle, better reflects our commitment to sustainable thinking. And to note that the monitoring now, which will appear more in the action plan, aligns with government guidelines with transparency and cohesiveness. If it's appropriate, Chair, I'd like to add a fourth recommendation, that Cabinet today actually approves this document, so that we can publish it on the website, and that we agree that.
Yeah.
So if that's all in order, Chair, I'll move those recommendations.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, and I'm more than happy. I think it's an excellent document. I've read through it. It's really clear, and I'll refer to page 20 of the pack. I think it's page 5 of the actual document, where it sets out the rethink, reduce, reuse and recycle. But the paragraph underneath, I think we've got to live up to that ideology, philosophy, whatever we call it, that as a strategic community leader and a major employer of the council, that sort of will apply these principles in regulatory functions, operations and the services we deliver to drive the positive change. And I think that's important, that we live and breathe it. It's not just somebody's done a lot of work and put it on a shelf. This is a living document that we've got to aspire to. And I think that fourth recommendation, Steve, spot on. The sooner we get that out in the public domain, the glossy brochures or online, I think that's fantastic. So whoever's done the work, Trish, well, I don't know your name.
Sylvia.
Yeah, excellent. It's really, really good. But like I say, we've got to live up to it.
For that, Chair.
So that's it. Moved and seconded. We're all happy with that fourth recommendation as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great work.
Are we allowed to?
You've got to stay right through. That's bad to know you can.
Thank you.
Well done anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Cheers. Well done. Cheers. Bye. Item 5, council plan objectives update. That's in my name, and I think this is a perfect example of I think us working together, the officers and councillors, as we've been receiving as cabinet members, haven't we? Sort of updates like this, which there's a lot of work gone into that, a lot of what we are doing and a lot of words. And then I sort of said, well, that's all well and good, but how does it relate back to this, the council plan? And so we sat down and have arrived at a document I think's really, really good. It's got all the information in there that we need, but also it can relate back to the council plan what we set out when we came to Fowler. And also, I think it'd be remiss not to point out the amount of work that has gone on in a short space of time. I think we've actually achieved a real lot, and it does relate back to what our aspirations are. And I think we need to keep that in mind as we go forward, that what we're doing is relevant to what we set out to achieve. And congratulations, or probably not the word, or whatever, to all the officers for the work that we've done in it's only 9 months, 10 months. I think it's really, really good. So I'll move those recommendations on that paper, wherever it is.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are we all in favour of that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Local plan review then, item 6, local plan evidence base and position statement.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to Helen and her team. There's been a tremendous amount of work done on this. Main reasons for the recommendation are to enable us to progress with the evidence-based work. We're not in a position, I don't think, to put a full review in place because we're still not clear what all the different implications are. So that evidence-based gathering is still going on to get us into the best position to adopt a new plan. And we need to agree a statement on that, of the work that's been done on that working group already, that we can put out on the website to make a public statement about the work that we're doing, what we're hoping to achieve, and the direction that we're travelling into to get a new local plan in place. David, do you want to add anything?
Only briefly, Chair, that obviously it's a kind of risk-based, balancing risk in terms of we could make a decision to progress with a full review today. But as Councillor Pickering has alluded to, the national government, as it stands, are proposing to quite radically change the way in which a local plan is produced at the back end of this year. That's the current position. And with that in mind, there is a cut-off point of summer next year to basically the evidence-based action plan. We're looking at quite strategic matters there in terms of housing, employment, biodiversity, and flood risk in particular. The amount of work that will be required in relation to each of those is quite substantial, because although the local plan is less than 5 years old. The evidence base behind it and the legislative framework under which it was assessed at the examination in public, that was the 2012 version of the National Planning Policy Framework. So there's a lot of work involved in this review. And what we don't want to do is just stand still. So in acknowledging that there's quite a risk of abortive work if we just progress now and then something changes at the back end of this year, we're also not standing still. The evidence-based action plan, as members will see at Appendix 2, is a detailed exercise. There's a lot of work involved. And the aim is to be able to plug that into whatever the new system looks like. It won't be abortive work, whatever happens, even if that current idea, if you like, of the new system is abandoned, that work can be plugged into the current system or whatever a new system looks like. They're all things that we're going to have to assess. So that's the rationale, basically. And the other thing at Appendix 3 is the notes from the November meeting of the working group. What we said at council when the decision was made to establish that group is that they would be reported quarterly. So the meeting, the last meeting, tell them February will come next quarter. But that's it from me, Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll move the recommendations. I mean, the work that's being done at the moment is being guided by a planning assessment toolkit that you've had in your papers at Appendix 1. So we're not just making it up. That's a nationally recognised toolkit to use. And so with the recommendations then, Chair, I'll move that we agree not to formally progress with a full review until that work's been completed, that we approve the evidence-based action plan that you've got at Appendix 2, and that we approve the position statement that you've got there so we can put that on the council's website and the public can then see what we're up to and the direction that we're moving in. And you've also been provided with the notes, as David's just mentioned, from the previous quarter's meeting in November. So I'll move that we accept those 4 points, Chair.
Thank you, Steve. And in seconding that, I think it's fair to say that when we set up this working party, it were there was some interest in it. Pick my words carefully, but it would appear from what I've read and what people have said that it is working well. And obviously the officers behind the scene, Helen and her team, are doing a great job, and I fully support what the recommendations from that working party. And obviously there's still work to do, but it's no good doing a foot which is going to be a waste of time.
Yeah.
But like you say, in this Appendix 2, there's still plenty to go at.
Yeah, that's right.
In the background, so that way you do can still pushing.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to second that. Are we all in favour of those recommendations?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's good. Well done. It's never controversial local plan, is it?
No, not at all.
Item 7, discretionary power to reduce council tax, section 13A, Finance Act. I think, Joe, you were...
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, that part of the Finance Act enabled councils to have a discretionary power to reduce the amount of council tax which an individual might be able to pay, or will be required to pay. In order to do that, we have to have a formally accepted scheme which notes our responsibilities and how the process will work. Any taxpayer in our area is entitled to make an application for a discretionary reduction to their payments. And so again, in order to be able to do that properly and legally, we've got to have this scheme in place. Overall, it's like the legal requirement that we must make a scheme specifying out what we're going to do. It's not a choice. The cost implications are could be something there, because obviously they could actually be reduced to nil if the relevant officers, which are in revenues and benefits, are able to decide that a particular individual with their circumstances, should not be required to pay anything. but the cost implications in reality are minimal and virtually insignificant. So there's not going to be a great deal of people needing to take advantage of this proposal. So therefore, Chair, I recommend that we accept those recommendations at this point, pointed out there that we endorse the implementation of this section 13A of the council tax in the reduction scheme.
Yeah, I'll second that. All in favour of that?
Yeah.
Thank you. The next one is the Stone Broom redevelopment update. And it's fair to say, I think this is moving at a pace now, Laning. We've had meetings about it. I don't think there's a lot of, well, the community seem happy with it, but we do need to progress it, move certain recommendations that are there on page 125. Because if we want to progress it, we've got to do these things. So we note the progress of the project to regenerate the prefab bungalows. The cabinet approved demolition notices to be issued on the 40 tenancies, because obviously there's people living in some of these bungalows. The cabinet approved Ricknell's request to award Band 1 priority to housing application status to 7 tenancies who have expressed an interest in relocating. So again, that helps us and it helps them. And the cabinet approved further detailed design, engineering, construction and planning works to be undertaken with a budget cost of about $500,000 from within the approved budget. The cabinet note temporary decounts of existing customers will be required into current voids on the development if we can. It's never easy that if to say on site while we did that at Eckington and Killamarsh, and it sounded like a good idea at the time, but they were living on a building site and it weren't always great. But that's what we need to, if people want to do that, they can. And the cabinet note existing gardens, access paths and open green spaces will need to be incorporated into the construction area in a flexible manner to provide sufficient storage, access and working space for the construction team. So it will be a big project because people have got to be moved out, got to knock them all down and then we start again. That's where we're at. So I'll move those recommendations. 1 to 6.
Thank them, Chair.
Yeah, and when it's sorted out, Jane.
Can I just add on to that, Chair? Appendix 2 addresses those very issues that was just raised with regards to the vulnerabilities. What we would have done with that is actually mapped the age profile and the vulnerability status of the tenants, because it is an issue, and we know that there are quite a number of elderly residents in there, so it's being handled very, very closely and very carefully. Contractors putting a dedicated contract liaison, customer liaison officer on site to start to work with those on a daily basis to make sure that gets managed. The only other point I just want to raise is that you will be getting a further report with regards to community building, which we're still working through.
Yeah, I didn't know if I got to say that, mention that. But there is a community building on site that needs moving.
Yes.
Yeah. Are we on with that as well?
We are on with that.
So are we all in favour of those?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great. Any urgent items? I've not had anybody any urgent items? No. Exclusion of the public, and though the leader to move, so the public be excluded. I enjoy this bit.
You as well.
Thank you. Excluded from the meeting during the discussion of the following items of business to avoid disclosure to them of exempt information as defined in Part 1, Schedule 12A, the Local Income Tax 1972, as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006. The category of exempt information is stated after each item. Thank you.
Are members content?
Are we content?
Yes, contempt.
Content.
Yeah, I think they're content. Look at
Qu'est-ce que c'est en français?
Very, very content.
that's it.
Yeah.
Cheers, Martin. Right, lovely.